Well, Andrew Mitchell joins us now. Now, your lawyer has seen a tape we've not seen. Does that also bear out your argument?
Yes, it does. My lawyer has seen all the CCTV, and he says that it stands foursquare behind my account, and what's more, that it stands foursquare behind Channel 4 Dispatch's account as well.
What's your reaction then to what Michael said just now, that it could be that PC Toby Rowland, who you've very much hit upon as being the culprit here, was lent on by other officers that he was working with to do what he did?
Well, I don't know is the answer to that. But what I do know is that I was stitched up, I was fitted up in Downing Street by armed police officers whose sole duty is to defend officials and to defend Downing Street. And I believe that the important point about a stitch-up is that you can't get out of it. And as one newspaper said at the time, either Mr. Mitchell said these horrible things, or else he is accusing the British police of lying. And that is the nature of the stitch-up with which I was faced.
People looking in would be absolutely flabbergasted to hear a former Conservative coalition cabinet minister asserting something like this. Mr. Rowland, of course, isn't here to defend himself, but in the end, it is one man's word against another, and therefore we'll never know.
Well, we believe that the CCTV shows that the account of PC Toby Rowland is, at very best, inaccurate. But I want to make this point very clear. I, to begin with, could do nothing, because had I said that the British police were lying, no one would have believed me. My feet wouldn't even have touched the ground. But over the last year, we've shown, first of all, this email, which is now the subject of a criminal prosecution. We've shown the CCTV, which, as I say, at the very best shows that the account is inaccurate. We've also shown that the three officers in the Midlands who didn't tell the truth have been exposed. Of course, they would never have been exposed if I hadn't taped the meeting. But they would have come out and said, this is 3 against 1.
Don't we have to go back to the beginnings of all this and say, hang on a minute, if you were an 18-year-old in Rotherham and you had said what you said to a policeman on the beat, you could have been arrested. You were lucky to get away with it.
Well, I don't believe that that is the case, and I always said what I said at the gate, and I apologised for using Anglo-Saxon language. But it is about the boy in Rotherham that this now matters so much. You know, I accept that there may not be enormous public sympathy for a cabinet minister caught in this way, but
partly because there were quite a lot of people who knew you reasonably well who thought you quite possibly might have said what you were accused of saying.
Look, I never said these phrases, and if you should know your effing place. No one speaks like that these days. It's like a hooray Henry, a lout from a 1920s B movie being sort of characterised. These phrases are completely untrue, and the point is that I believe I've managed to show that there should be very grave doubt about the way that I was treated. But what matters is
let me just draw the map of what you're accusing. You are saying the police are corrupt, the police federation is corrupt, the Cabinet Office is incompetent, particularly the senior civil servant in there. And now you're after the Crown Prosecution Service. I mean, these are huge allegations for a former Cabinet Minister to make.
I'm not saying that. I've made no comment at all on the Crown Prosecution Service. I've made no comment at all about the Cabinet Office.
You're infuriated that this policeman has not been properly examined or questioned. That all goes back.
The Crown Prosecution Service can only act on the basis of the evidence they are given by the police. But let's be very clear about this. I'm not making any accusations against the CPS or the IPCC or the Cabinet Office. What I am saying is that I was stitched up by dishonest police officers in Downing Street last year. That is the point I'm making.
In which case, do you lay the blame at the head of the Metropolitan Police, Bernard Hogan Howe?
I lay the blame on the police, but the point I want to make...
Well, where do you stop?
Well, the point I want to make...
I mean, he came out pretty soon after and said he believed the account of his officers.
Well, as I said in my press conference, he said that he had 100% confidence in his officers, and tonight 8 of them are either the subject of criminal charge or disciplinary charge.
But do you think Bernard Hogan Howe was justified in saying that? Should he be paying with his job?
He clearly was wrong in saying that, but that is not a matter for me. I don't want to get into all of that. I want to make a different point, which is that if I, with all the support that I have had, and the voice as well, have been able to show that these events were untrue, which I believe I have in the ways that I set out, what chance would a kid in Handsworth or in Brixton have of getting that point across if they had been stitched up?
Well,
and I think this really matters.
But many people will accept what you've said. I mean, generally, I think if you took an opinion, you'd probably find that people were reasonably with you. But having spent £237,000 on this investigation, and certainly as somebody who's been the Secretary of State for International Development, don't you think this money could have been better spent?
Of course I do, but the fault for that is the actions that were taken by dishonest police officers on that night. And I was invited to make a further complaint, which would have cost even more public money. I never made a complaint. What I tried to do was to ensure that a police investigation, which had been set up by the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, had added on to it the question of whether or not a cabinet minister had been stitched up.
Quick final question. Have you spoken to David Cameron in the last couple of days? Have you asked for your job back?
Well, I hugely enjoyed being the Development Secretary and serving in the Cabinet. I do speak to David Cameron from time to time. I enjoyed working with the Prime Minister.
Do you want your
job back? I hope very much to be able to do so again.
Has he made any promises?
Well, I don't think I can really talk about that, but I'm satisfied that I have an understanding with the Prime Minister on this point.
Now, the personal toll on you was great, and you spelt that out at your news conference. There were even people who were worried that in the end you might do yourself some mischief.
Well, I would never have done that, but it is true that my health was in a pretty bad way at the end of this time. There were 86 days before the bombshell revelations made by Channel 4 dispatches on December the 18th. There were 87 days when I was caught, as I say, in this stitch-up. Since that date, however, things have been a great deal better, but thank you for asking.
Andrew Mitchell, thank you very much for coming in.